and we waited in horror for confirmation that some of them were at the club that night. Our head of security, Ron Iden, was with us in Shanghai, and he immediately began calling his network of security contacts in the States. It was 12 hours earlier, just before dawn in Orlando, when we first heard the news. Ron told me he'd have more information when I got up in the morning. My first event the next day was a presentation to investors over breakfast. Then I had to shoot a long interview with Robin Roberts of Good Morning America, which included touring the park and riding attractions with Robin and her crew. Then there was a meeting with Chinese officials about protocol for the opening ceremonies, a dinner with members of our board and senior executives, and finally, a rehearsal for the opening night concert that I was hosting. Ron periodically gave me updates as I moved through the day. We knew that more than 50 people had been killed and nearly as many injured, and that the shooter was a man named Omar Mateen. Ron's security team ran Mateen's name through our database and found that he'd visited the Magic Kingdom a couple of months before the shooting, then again the weekend before. There was closed-circuit television footage of him on that last visit, pacing outside a park entrance near the House of Blues in downtown Disney. What we learned next shook me in a way few things have over the course of my career. It wouldn't be made public until nearly 2 years later, during the trial of Mateen's wife as an accomplice to the murders. She was later acquitted. But federal investigators informed Ron that they believed Disney World had been Mateen's primary target. They'd found his phone at the scene of the shooting and determined that it had been pinging off one of our cell towers earlier that night. They studied the CCTV footage and saw him again, walking back and forth in front of the entrance near the House of Blues. There was a heavy metal concert there that night, which meant extra security, 5 armed police officers, and after a few minutes of casing the area, Mateen could be seen walking back to his car. Security cameras picked up 2 weapons in Mateen's possession, a semi-automatic rifle and a semi-automatic pistol hidden inside a child's stroller, along with a baby blanket that hadn't yet been taken out of its packaging. Investigators suspected that his plan was to cover his weapons with the blanket and wheel them up to the entrance before pulling them out. Our head of Parks and Resorts, Bob Chapek, was also in Shanghai, and he and I consulted throughout the day as Ron passed on more news. We were still anxiously waiting to hear if any of our people had been at the nightclub, and now we were concerned that the news of our being a target would soon be leaked. It would be a big story and would take a difficult emotional toll on the community there. The bond you form in high-stress moments like this, when you're sharing information that you can't discuss with anyone else, is a powerful one. In every emergency I've encountered as CEO, I've been grateful for the competence and cool heads and humanity of the team around me. Bob's first move was to send the head of Walt Disney World, George Kalogridis, back to Orlando from Shanghai to give his people on the ground more executive support. The data on Mateen's phone showed that once he got back to his car, he typed in a search for nightclubs in Orlando. He drove to the first club that came up, but there was construction going on in front of the entrance, and traffic was backed up. The second result was Pulse, where he ultimately committed his massacre. As the details of the investigation trickled in, I felt a sickening, there but for the grace of God relief that he'd been deterred by the security we had in place. But I also couldn't shake the image of him carrying out his plan in downtown Disney. I'm often asked what aspect of the job most keeps me up at night. The honest answer is that I don't agonize over the work very much. I don't know if it's a quirk of brain chemistry or a defense mechanism I developed in reaction to some family chaos in my youth, or the result of years of discipline. Some combination of all those things, I suppose, but I tend not to feel much anxiety when things go awry. And I tend to approach bad news as a problem that can be worked through and solved, something I have control over rather than something happening to me. But I'm also all too aware of the symbolic power of Disney as a target. And the one thing that weighs heavily on me is the knowledge that no matter how vigilant we are,
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.